Scrap Mechanic has been on the decline for some time now, with its lack of updates and continuous ghosting of its developers, as players try to figure out what's happening with the game after the 5-year wait for Chapter 2. As the vehicle building genre has expanded over the years, people have begun to wonder which game tops them all. The two that always get brought up are Trailmakers and Scrap Mechanic. While Trailmakers has stayed consistent with its constant updates bringing in new players daily, Scrap Mechanic's decline raises the question, is this really a debate between two games, or is one of them just better than the other? In this video, I'll be going into detail on the strengths and flaws of each game to find out which one is really the better game. Scrap Mechanic is a sandbox game with multiple game modes that revolve around building vehicles. Its 3 game modes, Survival, Creative, and Challenge mode, all serve a different purpose in giving the player a different experience to keep them engaged. Its Survival mode is the one that is the most prominent in the game, as it's used for advertising in the game's cover art and the main gameplay trailer of the game. It's also the one that receives the most attention, with the Chapter 2 update mainly overhauling the survival aspect of the game and nothing else. Yet, many issues start to appear as you go deeper in. Official devlogs on Scrap Mechanic's website, like devlog 25, which was released all the way back in March of 2023, was the last entry. This was followed by silence, as devlog 26 has never been released, even after 2 whole years of waiting. The community's frustration is seen on websites like Steam, as some reviews state, "I've given up on this game," as the game feels like it's been abandoned by the developers, which paints a story of uncertainty about the progress of the game and fuels the idea that the game has been abandoned. Every few months or so, random updates are put up like on Twitter, when they shadow drop the new physics update, instead of laying out a clear, public roadmap of what's next for the game, like an actual release date for the next major update, Chapter 2. Now, this Chapter 2 update is where most of the negative feedback comes into play. This is because this update hasn't teased for years, with no real release date being seen in the foreseeable future. The game has already been on the downhill, with it being a buggy mess to play, or sometimes being impossible to play, due to the constant glitches that occur while playing. The much needed bugs and physics update that came out in late 2024 barely did anything for the game, and not only didn't address many of the main issues of the game, with major bugs still remaining unfixed, but also introducing even more glitches that the game didn't have before the update. When playing Scrap Mechanic, scrolling through menus becomes one of the biggest parts of the game. Its menus often offer many parts in the base game, which can confuse many new players when they first start the game. When adding on mods, the menus become even larger and more difficult to navigate. While early tutorials exist like the Mechanics Handbook and the beginning of the Survival mode, they offer not a lot of real information on how to play the game. In Scrap Mechanic, there's a Steam workshop that holds many mods created by the remaining player base. Official modding tools do exist, but Survival mode mod support is heavily limited, and developers rarely update the official mod APIs or talk with the modders directly. Community forums are hosted that help modders interact with each other, but lack the inside knowledge needed that can only be found by talking with the developers. This lack of communication often leads to mods breaking and needing extra maintenance whenever a new update comes out. Through all this, the struggle is clear. A promising sandbox of multiple modes and creative freedom meets persistent silence, buggy updates, confusing menus, and fragile mod support. Players love the core idea, but the journey becomes frustrating as each promised breakthrough keeps getting delayed or under-delivers. This is a story of investing time and creativity only to face uncertainty at every turn. Just when you wonder if sticking it out with Scrap Mechanic is worth it, consider Trailmakers. Trailmakers is a game with many game modes to play that mostly revolves around vehicle creation. Each of its game modes brings a new experience to the player, with a brand new update bringing a brand new campaign that changed up the whole experience, with the introduction of NPCs, missions, and even a whole new UI. This variety helps players to never get bored, as only playing the sandbox or campaign after a while gets boring. Another big thing that Trailmakers has is that it's on most platforms: Xbox, PlayStation, and even Steam. This cross-platform approach allows a wide array of players to try out the game without having to own a NASA supercomputer, unlike Scrap Mechanic. Trailmakers' engine Unity is a well-known game engine used by many games, and games that use it can get updates easily. This is also unlike Scrap Mechanic's Ogre engine, which is made just for Scrap Mechanic, but has caused the developers issues in the long run, with it causing massive delays to crucial bug-fixing updates in the past. Trailmakers developer team maintains a steady stream of announcements on all of their social media platforms, with posts from June 2025 stating some of their upcoming content, like the new PvP update Part 2, which also stated the pricing of its DLC, along with advertising it of their Devs vs Creators event, which they live-streamed on their social media platforms. Flashmob Games always publishes patch notes for each of their updates to keep communication with their player base, and often announce when reasonable delays are needed, as they emphasize quality over quantity of their updates. This constant stream of updates shows what consistent communication should look like. This differs heavily from Scrap Mechanics' developer situation. This dedicated approach to updates and cross-platform availability addresses many of the struggles we saw earlier. Players know what's coming, performance updates arrive often, and the variety of modes and UI improvements keep the experience fresh. While Scrap Mechanics' engine choice ended up stretching gaps between updates and feeding community frustration, Trailmakers' engine enables smoother update rollouts and platform ports, allowing it to reach more players. Overall ease of use shines through. With the recent rework of the Builder UI, it already shows how the studio is dedicated to making the game as easy to play as they can make it. With their menu improvements, controller support improvements, along with their HUD indicators, each of these things show how the developers help players to begin their journey throughout their game. While both games have outside support from fans through the creation of mods, they differ based on how these mods are added into the game. In Trailmakers, they provide a Lua-based modding API with extensive documentation, which is supported by our Discord forum and staff moderators that help out with mod-related issues. Flashroll games often interact with these modders, which reflects a tighter relationship between these two groups of people. Trailmakers also has a Steam workshop where players can share their own creations with one another. They often have developer events where they show off player creations and host competitions or rewards, which shows off the relationship between the developers and the community. Here, the plot twist is clear. The very strengths that help Trailmakers aren't present in Scrap Mechanics' inconsistent updates, exclusivity to Steam, confusing UI, and failure in modding support. Other games share this concept, prioritizing developer-player communication and smooth updates, which keeps communities engaged and content flowing. While both Scrap Mechanic and Trailmakers offer unique takes on the genre, the issues we saw in Scrap Mechanic highlight a deeper narrative. Communication, updates, and polish matter for any creative sandbox. Even though Scrap Mechanics' unique survival mode, its overall lack of attention from its developers makes it unappealing to the average player. This is reflected in Steam comments, as people praise Trailmakers for the dev team actually listening to their player base, while Scrap Mechanics' comments are full of people expressing their feelings on the distant nature of the developers and the long waits between important updates. From my own experience in observing these communities, when the game promises everything but then falls silent, players feel their creativity is undervalued. Other titles that openly share roadmaps and communicate with community input often lead to maintaining stronger engagement. This is such a big issue because sandbox games rely on player trust and ongoing support. Trailmakers shows how regular updates and clear communication validate player investment, while Scrap Mechanics' silence and buggy patches has since made players question their trust with the developers. Think about any project where you poured time and effort only to be left wondering if anyone else cared. That's the feeling Scrap Mechanic players face now. I love Scrap Mechanics' creative freedom and survival promise, but I only see how it falls short on many things, with it needing more frequent updates, clearer roadmaps, polished UI improvements, and reliable mod support. Trailmakers, by contrast, shows how a developer team's consistent engagement and cross-platform reach can keep a sandbox game engaged with its community. In the end, both communities have passionate members keeping the game alive, but the future is looking brighter for Trailmakers and Scrap Mechanics. If you enjoyed this video, click on this one as I go into detail on how Scrap Mechanics disappointed everyone that believed in it.